Today I'm going to dive into junk wax era baseball cards. What is it? What years were junk wax? Why is it still important? Why are there channels devoted to junk wax era cards? And should you or should you not maybe get involved in the junk wax era baseball craze? I think before we start talking about junk wax, we need to go back prior to the junk wax era. In front of us on the screen are packs of 1982 Topps, Donruss, and Fleer. Pre-1981, Topps had a stranglehold on what you bought for baseball, football, and basketball cards, with some sets coming in and out for a year or two in the 70s. But in 1981, that would change. 1981 would give us Topps, Donruss, and Fleer, each one of them having their own little piece that came with the pack of cards. 1981, you would still have gum in the Topps cards. You would have a puzzle piece in Donruss. Fleer in 1981 has gum, but in 1982, they would make the switch to the logo sticker, and that would stay the same throughout the 80s. 1982 numbers of each individual card produced by Topps, Donruss, and Fleer. Solid guesstimate would be about 500 to 650,000 individual cards of each copy in a production run. Topps, Donruss, and Fleer, though, did not ever release their production numbers through the 1980s and most of the 1990s, leaving you to do your own research on what you think is the amount of cards that were produced. We fast forward a few years and we get to the year of 1986. Topps was producing more cards in 1986 than Donruss and Fleer were, but still not to the numbers of the height of junk wax. In 1986, Topps guesstimate produced somewhere around 1 million individual copies to 1.2 million copies of each card. High numbers, yes, but not near what we would see in the following year. In 1987, the one that started it all was 1987 Topps. If you were born in the 70s or maybe the late 60s, you remember as a kid finding these packs literally everywhere. Every gas station, card shop, grocery store, the mall. These packs were anywhere you went to purchase anything, you would find 1987 Topps baseball cards. A solid estimate of the production run in 1987 Topps was around 7.5 million copies of each individual card. Topps had been producing factory sets, Tiffany sets, traded sets, along with the standard cello packs, rack packs, and the regular wax packs that you could buy. But in 1987, packs were introduced the size of these in front of us right here. This is 1988, but you get the picture. 90 plus cards in a single pack of baseball cards. Why? Because they had 7.5 million of them to try to get in the hands of children and collectors at this point. Numbers for Fleer and Donruss, still, you cannot be accurate on those, but you can guess based on how much is still out there in the market. They were dramatically less in 1987. 1987 would be the last year that would hold true, and we would get into the height of the junk wax era. The year was 1988. By now, Topps had released their 87 set, and it was selling, and companies like Donruss and Fleer that would have been behind in 1988 on production runs would flip the script. In 1988, a solid estimate for Fleer and Donruss is somewhere around 10 to 10.5 million individual cards produced for the year. New players would also enter the game, such as this pack in front of us of 1988 Score. 1988 would be a massive production run of baseball cards. Still the standard card that you know from the 80s, which this Barry Larkin rookie is a 1987 Topps in front of us with a semi-gloss front and a regular cardstock rear. Companies like Score would introduce a semi-glossy front and back card in 1988 to stand out from the crowd and the mass production. In 1989, you would have the introduction of Bowman baseball cards. which were slightly larger than everything else on the market. If you were a kid back in this era, you remember that your Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card, if you were lucky enough to get one out of a pack, would stand out of a standard card protector, a standard sleeve as well, making it a royal pain in the butt to display your Ken Griffey Jr. rookie. In 1989, we would also see a new player in the game, and that was 1989 Upper Deck baseball cards. A full gloss game changer of a card, in my opinion, which set the standard of the cards that we know today and we collect. Had it not been for 1989 Upper Deck, we may have never seen the transformation that we saw in the hobby. 1989 Upper Deck, while still massively produced, was not produced at the numbers, being it was a brand new company, that these other packs in front of us were. 1989 Bowman was also owned by Topps at this time, so it was still a Topps product. Now, companies were producing cards at such an alarming number that there were tons of errors that were produced in regular runs and then fixed throughout the year as more and more cards were produced. A good example of this is 1990 Donruss, the famous red basic card with cursive. This set on certain websites has over 9 to 10 pages of error cards. Now, there are errors such as dots, misleading dots, INCs not dotted, INCs missing, black borders not connecting, things of that nature. They were not, while there were some errors like the John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, wrong face on the card, those big errors in the junk wax era were reserved more for the F-face era card of Billy Ripken and the no-name Frank Thomas card in the 1990 Topps set. But 1990 Donruss as a whole had the most errors of any junk wax card to date. We fast forward then to 1991. 1991 Fleer, in my opinion, was the first genuine chase, genuine short print card that was produced. And that was the 1991 baseball, football, and basketball Provision cards. Did we know what we were looking at back in those days? No, but they were dramatically different. This set is a yellow base card, very bright yellow card, and this chase card, if you will, back in 1991, is a solid black bordered artwork card. There was only 12 individual cards in this Provision set, and they were severely underproduced versus the regular standard baseball card of the year. This would be the very first insert card to chase in the junk wax era. Cards also began to get away from the previously mentioned solid semi-gloss front card stock back. Multiple companies such as Stadium Club and others were copying more of the 1989 Upper Deck style when we got to 1991. 1991, in my opinion, is the peak of Topps production. Topps would produce somewhere around 10 to 12 million individual copies of each 1991 Topps baseball card, proving, in my opinion, to be the highest run of the junk wax era baseball cards. So what does all this mean? What is junk wax? Why are there people still devoting channels like ours to junk wax? Well, it's really simple if you ask me. In 1987, I was a child. In 1987 through the mid-90s, I would use my allowance, I would use grass mowing money, whatever I could get my hands on to go purchase baseball cards. Well, as we all become adults, cards get thrown away, cards get left in basements, cards get left in attics. And while there is still wildly enough of this product around to get back what you had as a kid, us as adults now would like to go buy these packs again and have the same childlike feeling of opening these cards and getting the people that we like out of them. In the junk wax, especially 1987, you had players like Barry Bonds, Bo Jackson, Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, household names throughout the 90s that people want to collect. There's still examples of these cards from 1987 reaching in the few $100s range for PSA, Of course, in 1989, a lesser produced set, the Ken Griffey Jr. card in a PSA 10 is going to be well over $1,000 a card. So yes, there is still some value in junk wax if you're into this era of cards. In my opinion, the only thing that has changed in the game in today's market is the parallel sets and all of the chase cards and the short print cards that you can find in today's market. Back in 87 through 90, as we've already spoke, there wasn't any chase cards to find. Sure, there were like some super glossy rookie cards like you see in this massive pack of 90 cards from 88 Topps, but there weren't really any chase cards to be had. So it was just an overproduction of individual cards. If you look at PSA's registry and PSA's amount of cards that they have graded, you'll see an outstanding, staggering number of how many 1987 Barry Bonds rookie cards have been graded. Yes, there's a lot of them out there. That keeps the value down over a more modern rookie card, but they're still quite valuable. And again, it's something that we just all liked from our childhood. So why do I think junk wax still matters? It's the nostalgia of it, in my opinion. It is being able to take a step back in time and go open a pack of cards and relive that piece of your childhood from the 80s and early 90s. It's not about the value to most people that are interested in junk wax era cards. It's simply about the nostalgia and having a little piece of your childhood back. And that, in my opinion, is what all of collecting in the card market should be, and it's what it was back then. So does junk wax matter to some of us? Absolutely it does, and I think it always will. And while I still believe that Topps may be producing 1987 Topps in an abandoned warehouse somewhere, that's not going to keep us from still chasing it and still wanting to rip some of this product. If you want a nice, fun, cheap rip with maybe an introduction to your children now, you can still pick up boxes of this product in the $20 to $50 range versus a box of brand new baseball or football cards may cost you somewhere north of $1,000 per hobby box, which is just not a easy introduction, in my opinion, for children into the hobby these days. We're all stuck on one of ones and weird parallels and golds and kabooms and downtowns. It's enough to make your head spin when you look at the card market today. Does that mean that there's not some that are only interested in those type of cards? Absolutely there is. There's a ton of money in modern sports cards, a ton of money. There are certain cards that can be worth more than some people's homes. In the junk wax, you're not going to find that. But what you're going to find still is, in my opinion, the old cool factor of what cards were supposed to be. Were they overproduced? Absolutely they were. But again, that's still not going to stop some of us from enjoying this piece of the hobby that we love. So today, that's my take on what junk wax is. We'll dive in a different video of some of the most high value junk wax cards. But I just wanted to give you now, with 1,000+ subscribers on the channel, why I do this, why a lot of us still care about this era of baseball cards, and why maybe you should get involved in it too. Until next time, thanks for watching.